We're learning a Sikha on Elul, which is actually also a Hadrin on Masechta Rosh Hashanah in Chelek Chav Daled on page 95. The shir today is being learned Lili Nishmas Rabbi Yosef ben Yamin ben Rabbi Menashe Koltman. B'nigeya Tefillah B'tzibur, regarding davening with the congregation, was this from the Mailis Hachi Chshuvas and Tefillah, which is one of the most important things when it comes to davening, that one should daven not alone, but daven together with a congregation. Gefindt men a plukte zwischen die Chachamim und Rabbi Gamliel. We find in the last Mishnah of Masechta Rosh Hashanah an argument between the Chachamim and Rabbi Gamliel. The Chachamim sagen, the Chachamim's opinion is, Kishem sheshliach tzibur chayiv, just as the shliach tzibur is obligated to daven, and what this is referring to is what we have today, what's called chazaras hashatz, when the shliach tzibur davens loud for everybody to listen and to answer amen. Kach kol yochid v'yochid chayiv. So too every individual is obligated to daven himself quietly, as today we daven the Shemay Nesra before quietly. Every individual should daven as well. As is da achiv of jeden yochid von dem tzibur, there's an obligation on every individual from the tzibur to mispal sein for sich, to daven himself the Shemay Nesra. Rabbi Gamliel leimer, however, Rabbi Gamliel says, Shliach tzibur moitzi es harabim midei chivasam. The shliach tzibur, the chazan, the one that davens the loud Shemay Nesra, and everybody listens, he will be moitzi everybody. Everybody will be yaitze the davening with him by listening and answering amen to him davening, when he davens, that is. Those are the words of the Mishnah. So again, as I explained, this is referring to Shemay Nesra, as we have today the Shemay Nesra when everyone davens quietly themselves, and then chazaras hashatz when the shliach tzibur davens loud for everyone to answer amen. So they're arguing whether there's an obligation to daven alone, or you're yaitze with the shliach tzibur that davens loud and everyone listens and answers amen. Und die Gemara bringt auf dem Braise. The Gemara brings, to explain this argument, the following Braise. And this Braise will address the question, because as we do today, we actually do both. The people, everyone, davens themselves first, quietly, and then the Shliach Tzibur will repeat and daven Shemay Nesra loud for everyone to answer. So how is this explained, according to both the opinions of Chachamim and Rabbi Gamliel? Amrulei Rabbi Gamliel, the Chachamim said to Rabbi Gamliel, Lidvarecha, according to your opinion, that everyone is being yaitze, they're davening by listening to the chazaras hashatz of the Shliach Tzibur, Lama Tzibur mispalin. So why does everybody of the Tzibur daven before this alone, quietly? Amalahem, so Rabbi Gamliel answered, Kedei lahazde Shliach Tzibur tfilasei. That's in order to give a chance for the one that will be appointed to be the Shliach Tzibur to be able to prepare the davening to say it clearly for everybody. The Shliach Tzibur soll haben Zeit zuzugreifen sein Tefillah. The Shliach Tzibur should have time to prepare the davening that he then has to say loud for everyone to listen to. Now, to understand this, in those times, they didn't have the Sidurim the way it was available today, and the words of davening were not as proficient as it is by most people today. And the one that was appointed to daven the Shemay Nesra as the Shliach Tzibur loud would need time to first say it quietly to himself, so then he can repeat it and say it loud, clearly. So the whole point of davening first quietly is only really in order to have time for the Shliach Tzibur to daven as well quietly, and then he will repeat it clearly for everybody. Now, on the other hand, Rabbi Gamliel says to Chachamim, L'divreichem, according to your opinion, Lama Shliach Tzibur yored lifnei tefillah. Why is the Shliach Tzibur davening in the front at the teva, at the amud, for everybody then to listen to him loudly? If everyone anyways has to daven quietly, and they're not going to be yaitze later with the Shliach Tzibur, so why is he repeating and davening again? Amrullah, so the Chachamim answered, Kedila haitzi she'ena baki. He's coming to be maitzi, someone that could not daven himself quietly, because, as I mentioned, there's no Sidurim in those times necessarily. So one that's not an expert in the words of davening and can't daven himself, so he will listen and will be yaitze from the Shliach Tzibur. Amalahem, so Rabbi Gamliel says to the Chachamim, if that's the case, Geshem shemaitzi es she'ena baki, just as the Shliach Tzibur davening loud and others listen can be maitzi those that are not expert in their davening, kach maitzi es baki. So too when the Shliach Tzibur davens loud, he's maitzi everybody. He's maitzi even someone that is able to daven himself, but he listens and he's yaitze from the Shliach Tzibur. And the only reason that you daven before this quietly is, as Rabbi Gamliel in his opinion says, to give time for the one that's going to be the Shliach Tzibur to daven first quietly and then to be able to daven loud to be mitzi everybody. That's the machlekes, the way it's explained in the Gemara. Okay, so to understand the machlekes, what are they really arguing about? So first the Rabbi brings from what it says here in the Rosh, what really is the machlekes between Chachamim and Rabbi Gamliel. Each one is focusing on a different aspect of how to daven, of what is the primary focus of what we say is more important. So this haste, what it means here, to understand their opinions, it means as follows. Leute Chachamim is tzibur iker. According to the Chachamim's approach, it's the congregation which is the main thing that matters. Der Inyan von Tefillah b'tzibur is was der Tzibur is mispal zusammen. In this context here, the meaning of the word tzibur is the fact that you have everybody, the minyan, that comes together and everybody is davening. Not just one person that's davening and everyone listening, but everybody is actually davening the quiet Shemay Nesra. That is the davening of the whole tzibur together, which is the main thing of davening. On the Re'im v'chazaras hashatz, and then the fact that later you have the Shliach Tzibur that will daven loud is blois atakonet tzimoitzi zayin the main baki. That was a separate thing that was instituted in order to be mitzi one that cannot daven himself. Mashenken Rabbi Gamliel halt. On the other hand, Rabbi Gamliel's opinion is a Shliach Tzibur ikar, that the main thing in davening is the fact that you have the Shliach Tzibur, one person that's davening for everyone. That ikir inyan von Tefillah b'tzibur is the Tefillah Hashatz. What's the main point of davening together as a minyan is when everyone is davening and being yetzer from the Shliach Tzibur. Und das was Eider, Chazaras Hashatz, is jeder Yachid von dem Tzibur mispalel, Tfilas lachash fazich, and the fact that before everyone is going to be yetzer from the Shliach Tzibur, everyone first davens the Shemay Nesra quietly for themselves, is as blois atakone tzilibim shatz. That's all something that was instituted in order that the Shatz, the Shliach Tzibur, should have time to prepare, the Shliach Tzibur tfilasai, to prepare and to say his davening first quietly, so then he can say it loud for everyone to be yetzer from him. That's the explanation of the machlekes. What do we focus on? Is the Tzibur Iker, the fact that we have the people of the minyan, each one davening, and everyone's davening together, that's more important for the cheshivas of the Tzibur in the davening? Or no? The fact that you have a shatz that davens and is mitzi everyone, that way of davening is the ikir davening that should be done b'tzibur. In was besteht the tam usvaras aplukte tzitzibur ikir oder shatz ikir. So what exactly is the explanation of this argument, whether the tzibur, everybody davening together quietly, is the main way to daven, or the shliach tzibur, the fact that you have one person that's davening himself and it's being mitzi everyone, whether that's the ikr, what's really behind this machlekes? Kann man sagen, das ist verbunden mit der Shaila Yedua. So we can say that this is connected to a well-known discussion, was hat mer chshivas? What is more important? Ribu yakamas, whether we look at a bigger number in quantity, that's what matters more and that's something that we go by more. Or rather, we look at the quality of what it is. The level, the quality, the nature of it, that is something that is much greater and matters more. Was man gefindt in dem aplukte zwischen Rabbi Gamliel v'chaveirav. And we find clearly in the Gemara that Rabbi Gamliel and his colleagues argued about this very point. The Gemara did say, the Gemara relates as B'shas Rabbi Gamliel's given Nasi. When Rabbi Gamliel was the Nasi, was the leader of Yidden and in the yeshiva, is Hayamachris v'aimer, he announced and said as follows, Kol Talmud shein toichei kebadai any student that is not inside the way his behavior is outside, he should not enter, he should not be allowed into the Beis Medrash to join the yeshiva and to learn. But then later, from the Nesias, when Rabbi Gamliel was removed from being the leader, the Rosh Yeshiva, on Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah is Gevara Nasi, and instead Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah was placed to be the Nasi. So then there was a different approach. Salkul l'shema Pesach, they removed the guard that would stand by the door to not allow everyone in. V'nitno le'em rishos l'talmidim l'konis, and permission was given to any student to enter. And v'hahu yoyme itoisvu kamasafsale. And on that day, there were many benches added in the Beis Medrash with more students that joined the Beis Medrash without the limitations that Rabbi Gamliel set before. So what do we see here? What's the difference between these two approaches? Das heißt, in other words, this means, Rabbi Gamliel halt, it's Rabbi Gamliel's opinion as the Iker Chshivas von a Yeshiva Beis Medrash is, what is the main thing that's important in a Yeshiva and a Beis Medrash? Eichos HaTalmidim. The quality, the level of the students. Und der Rebbe, and therefore, fleckter nor reinlassen die Talmidim was teichem kebarim. He would only allow in those that are inside and outside the same, sincere and really ready to learn properly. Afal pi as durch dem is given mi et hakamas von Talmidim. Even though by this there were less in numbers of the students. Mashenkin Chaveirov, by contrast, his colleagues, which were Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, Rabbi Yeshua, and Rabbi Kiva, as the Gemara mentions there. So Halton is their opinion, as Ribia Kamos is Machria Mailas Eichos, that the greater number that there could be is more important and it outweighs whatever advantage there is in greater quality. Und der Rebbe darf na reinlassen in Beis Medrash euch Talmidim shein teichem kebarim. So therefore you must allow into the Beis Medrash even those students that are not perfect, that are not outside like inside or inside like outside. Well, their ikir is as a zolzaim mer Talmidim b'yeshiva. Because what's more important is the numbers, that there should be a greater number of students in the yeshiva, ribui bekamas, the greater number in quantity. Chotch, das wird geirem sein, even though this will cause a miyat be'eches akloli de Beis Medrash, it will bring down the general level of the Beis Medrash, ubemele gam be'eches apratim, and then as a result also bring down the quality of learning in different areas. But nevertheless, according to them, it's the numbers that is more important. So we see here clearly that Rabbi Gamliel argued with his colleagues on this very point. So based on this we can say, as in them, was Rabbi Gamliel halt, as tfilas hashatziker, that the fact that Rabbi Gamliel's opinion here is that the shliach tzibur that davens, and one person is davening and being mitzi everybody with his davening, geit el l'shitasai, he's following his opinion as eichos is machriya kamos, that the quality overrides, is more important than the quantity. So how does that apply over here in this case? Regarding the davening b'tzibur, to daven with a minyan, whether it's the quiet Shmei Nesra, where everybody is davening, is the main davening, or the shliach tzibur that davens, that's the main davening when he's mitzi everybody else. The beer in them, so the explanation here is as follows. In der Meiftu von der Tzibur Gufe sind da die beiden Meiles von Kamas and Echos. Regarding the existence of a congregation, 10 Yidden, a minyan, that davens together. So in this itself, there's actually two advantages to this, one in the quantity of it, and the other in the quality of it. Aleph, number one, a tzibur b'shtei tafke von ribi bekamus asar al kaponim Yisrael. A tzibur, a congregation, consists of at least 10 Yidden, which is a number, and a number not 9, not 8, but specifically 10, which is a greater number than just 1 or 2 or 3 or so on. Beis, another point here though is that Siruf von Asarim Yisrael, when you combine and have 10 people, 10 Yidden, Shaft Ametzias Chadasha. This creates a new entity. Achativa Achas von an Eide Kadesha, a new existence of a unit, which is now a holy congregation. Achshivas Be'eches. So this is something which is a new existence of a significance in the quality of a new unit that is created here by the minyan. So in the tzibur, as you see, we have the kamos, the advantage of the number of 10, and then also the advantage of the fact that you have a new entity of a holy congregation. Und das ist der Chilok zwischen Tfilas HaTzibur. This is the difference between when it's all the people, all the Yidden, in the quiet Shmei Nesra that daven, was is Kailul di Tfilas von Kol Echad Ve'echad, von dem Tzibur B'fnei Atzmai, which includes all of the people of the Minyan that they are each davening themselves, the quiet Shmei Nesra, and Tfilas HaShatz, or the Tfilas HaShatz that davens loud and is mitzi everybody. Tfilas HaTzibur hat die Meile von Ribi HaKamos. When everybody is davening with the minyan quietly, the Shmei Nesra, here, what advantage of the minyan is expressed is the larger number that you have here. The ribui from tfilis was vert mitzaref yachad. Everybody is davening, and because you have the combination of the tfilis of 10 yidden together, so that's b'shas hasorim yisrael and a mispal zusammen. When 10 yidden are davening together, that has a greater kamos, a greater quantity than just 1 or 2 people that are davening. That's the Maila in the quantity of 10 people that are all davening at the same time, the quiet Shmei Nesra. On the other hand, when you have the Shliach Tzibur that davens, and he alone is davening and being mighty everybody. Here, the quality of the tzibur is not expressed in numbers. Here, there's the quality, the nature, the level of this davening that's on a completely different level that's expressed by this. And that is, in addition to the point with Hashatz, muss haben gewisse Tnaim und Meiles. Choosing the one that will be the Shliach Tzibur, there are certain conditions, and he has to be on a certain level. So automatically, even his davening as an individual has a greater significance in its quality than anyone else that would daven. Is Nachman, but even more so, and the main point here is as follows: a shliach tzibur is in yanai. What is the point of one that is the shliach tzibur and davening, representing all the people and being mighty everybody? Was is kailul di pifias amcha beis Yisrael. In his davening, he includes the mouths of the davening of all of the people of the Yidden that are joining here. Was hu nasa shliach lekulam shepiv kipiyim. He is a shliach for them. He takes their place, and his mouth is like their mouth. Azoyas jede Wort was is mispalel. Every word that he says in his davening is das keilu wie die ganze Ede sagt es durch piv. It's as if the entire minyan, the whole congregation here, is saying the words of davening by him saying the words. That's what it means when he's being mitzi them, that he's davening representing them, that his words is them davening through him. Das heißt, what this means in other words is, as in Tfilas Hashatz is meruches umeochid die Tfile von dem Tzibur, wie wird ein Metzias von einer Kedusha. So here, when the Shliach Tzibur daven, so here you have concentrated and unified in this one tefillah, in this one entity of him davening, representing everybody. You have here concentrated this advantage of this quality of this holy congregation. And andegeder in Eichus Atfilah, this is a completely different level in the nature of the davening. Afilah legabe the tefillas von riboy hamispal and betzibur. Even in contrast to when you have everybody of the tzibur and everybody is davening at the same time in the minyan, but nevertheless, when it's all unified and expressed by the shliach tzibur that davens, that carries and has and is representing the entire tzibur, so you have here in this one davening, one entity, a new entity, which is the Eide Kedusha expressed by his davening. Und das ist die Plukte von den Chachamim und Rabbi Gamliel. So this is the explanation of the argument between the Chachamim and Rabbi Gamliel, whether the tzibur is the ikar, when everybody is davening the quiet Shemoneh Esrei at the same time together, or the one shliach tzibur representing everybody is the main tefillah. The Chachamim halten, the Chachamim's opinion is, as Ribui Akamos is Machriya Eichos, that the bigger number and quantity is greater, is more important than the quality of the davening. And the Rebbe sagen sehen, therefore they say here, as the ikar from tefillah b'tzibur is tefillah satzibur. That what's the main thing in the tefillah, when the tzibur davens together, is when actually everybody in the tzibur, the numbers of the 10 people, everybody is davening together. However, Rabbi Gamliel's opinion is, as the eichos, it's the quality of this new entity here that is more important than the numbers. And the Rebbe said, therefore, tefillas hashatz is muta bekamos. So even though when the Shliach Tzibur is the one person davening, being mighty everybody, so in numbers you don't have the many tefillahs combined together. This is blaze ein tefillah, it's only one tefillah of the Shliach Tzibur. Is zi obe mer choshev v'tefillas hatzibur. However, this is much greater than the combination of everybody davening together. V'bal zi is viel gresser der hoibener beichus. Because his tefillah representing and expressing the tefillah of all the Yidden in one tefillah is combining that one unit of the Eide Kedusha on a much greater and a much more elevated level in its quality. Habendik dem koyach vom ganzen Tzibur ke'echad. Expressing and having the power of the entire congregation all expressed in one powerful unit of what the davening here is. That's the explanation of the argument of the Chachamim and Rabbi Gamliel regarding the main focus of where the davening is, that a person is yetze in his davening with a tzibur. Okay, so this is the explanation of the machlokes regarding this case. And it's based on, as we see, the machlokes that there was regarding the learning of Torah in yeshiva, where there was an argument who should be allowed into the Beis Medrash, into the yeshiva to learn Torah. Do we look at the Ribui Akamos, the numbers, the quantity, or rather we focus on the eichos, the quality, the nature, the level of what you have in front of you. It was once explained, as b'shas begefinta plukte zwischen Chachamim mitzad derselbe svara in zwei de mererter, that anytime you find an argument between the Chachamim in two or more places, and it's all based on the same point, it's the same svara, is faran achidish in jeder plukte legabe down to the pluktis. There must be something unique and something different in one argument, in one way it's applied in one case over the other case. Was the far muss not abgebracht werden beferish alle pluktis, and therefore it has to be explained that they argue in both cases. Man kann sie nicht ablernen eine von der zweite, and it can't be compared and learned one from the other. Ubelashon hashas, to use the expression that the Gemara says in similar cases, utzriche, that it's necessary to say the argument in this case and in the other case, even though it's based on the same svara, the same point. In our case, whether you look at the kamos or the eichos. Well, derech zeh binyaneinu, the same should be said here as well. In jeder von die zwei pluktes anal is faran achidish. In each one of these two cases where Chachamim and Rabbi Gamliel argue, there is something that's unique, and therefore the machlokes is expressed in both places. In the minyan from Beis HaMedrash, when it comes to them arguing about who should be allowed into the Beis HaMedrash. Here, the question was whether you should allow a student that his inside is not the way he behaves outside, whether he should be allowed in. Now, this individual, such a student on this level, felt in the klolos ha'echos von Talmud. He's lacking the entire ingredient or the real, most basic quality of being a student. Kamayim Chazal, as the Gemara says elsewhere, Kol Talmud Chacham she'ein teiche kebarei einoi Talmud Chacham. A Talmud Chacham that his inside does not reflect the way he behaves outside is not a Talmud Chacham at all. Meaning not that there's something that's less or is at the diminished level to his being a Talmud Chacham. He's not a Talmud Chacham. He's missing having that sincerity of being inside like outside. He's not a Talmud Chacham. That's in the case of the Beis Medrash. Shenk and by minyan from Tefillah, which is not the case when it comes to the davening, where we're discussing here what is the main focus on the davening, the kamos of everyone davening together, or the echos of the shliach tzibur davening, is by Tefillah Satzibur, when everybody is davening the quiet Shemona Esrei at the same time together. Faran nitno di maila from kamos, you have not only the numbers of everyone davening together, but di maila from echos. There's also a maila, there's the advantage of the quality of this davening. When b'shas 10 Yidden davening zusammen, because if 10 Yidden are together davening in a minyan, hat it tefillah von jeder in bifnei atzmai, aber als Teil von Tzibur, am Meile legabe tefillah sayachid. So in this kind of case, in this kind of situation, when everyone is davening in a minyan, so there's a Meile to the davening, not only in the fact that you have the numbers of 10, but there's also the fact that they're all davening at the same time in a minyan. So there's definitely a greater quality to the level of their davening, more than just a person davening alone. It says not, however, as the echos from Tzulas Hashatz, the level and the quality when the Shliach Tzibur davens, and welche de ganze Tzibur wird misached als ein Metzias von einer Kedusha, in his tefillah, because it's the entire congregation that becomes unified and as one unit, as a holy congregation, in his davening, is noch b'yesa says v'ilui. The quality of this davening is much greater, much higher than the quality that there is when 10 Yidden are davening together, the quiet Shemona Esrei. But the point is here, unlike in the case of the Talmidim, the discussion was whether they should be allowed into the Beis Medrash. There the question was, should we look away completely from the quality that's lacking altogether? He's not even on a level of a Talmud Chacham, but we should just allow the numbers of more students in. Whereas here by davening, where we're discussing the kamos, the quantity versus the quality, it's not about looking away completely from having the quality of the tzibur. Even when you'll have the main focus on the quantity of the davening together, you still have also a certain level of quality in tzibur when they daven together. Und der Rebbe, so therefore, wenn es wollte gestanden die Schütte von Rabbi Gamliel bloß bei mir from Beis HaMedrash, if Rabbi Gamliel would be saying his opinion only regarding who's to be allowed into the Beis HaMedrash, what man gemeint, then we would think to say, as dafke dort geht der basarechos. It's only there that he says that the quality matters. Because if you're not going to look at the quality of the student, you're just allowing everybody into the Beis HaMedrash, you're missing the echos altogether. You are allowing people that are not Talmidei Chachamim at all into the Beis HaMedrash. On the other hand, though, here, when it comes to davening, is there maida? Possibly you would say that Rabbi Gamliel would agree as tefillas tzibur ikke, that the tzibur, davening, the quiet Shemona Esrei together, that's the main point of the davening. Because here, this actually has both advantages. It also has, to some extent, the advantage of the quality of this davening, which is not being done alone, but it's being done in the presence of a minyan when others are davening as well. And also, you also have the mile of everybody davening together at the same time, so you have the mile of the quantity. So therefore, the Mishnah here and the end of Rosh Hashanah tells us again the opinion of Rabbi Gamliel as it relates to davening, oich by tefillah, b'chtei zu lassen heren, to let you know, as oich in dem fall, that in this case as well, is kedai, der miet bekamos, tzlieb, an noch gressere eichos. That it's the right thing to put aside the miyat, it's kedai that there should be less numbers, and that is when the shliach tzibur is davening, and it's just him alone davening, and not everybody else davening at the same time, and all for what? To get a greater level of eichos, a greater level of quality in the davening of the shliach tzibur. Although you already would have that eichos of tzibur even when everybody's davening, but here in the shliach tzibur's davening, you get even a greater level of eichos, of the quality of this tzibur, the Eidah Kedosha unified in his davening. And Rabbi Gamliel, even in this case, says that is more important than the numbers of the 10 people davening together. But now, on the other hand, we can also argue and say, if Rabbi Gamliel's opinion about how important the eichos, the quality of the davening that's expressed when the shliach tzibur davens, if only that would be mentioned, is neisef lezeh, in addition to the point related to what was said before, was me wollt gekent sagen, as by Beis Medrash, zene die Chachamim meide to Rabbi Gamliel, mitam anal. Then I would think that when it comes to the Beis Medrash, where it's the question of who's to be allowed in, that there the Chachamim would agree to Rabbi Gamliel, as explained before, because in that case, the eichos is something that you're completely compromising on. There's no quality to these students that are ein teichem kabaram. So maybe there, it's not a question of the level of the eichos, but the basic quality of what a student is needed to be in the Beis Medrash is not here. So maybe you would think Chachamim agree. That's why it has to say the argument regarding Beis Medrash to tell us the chiddush of the Chachamim's opinion. But besides that, is oich b'negeya shittus Rabbi Gamliel, even regarding Rabbi Gamliel's opinion, that says that you look at the quality at the eichos, wollt men von dort nicht gekannt oplernen, from what he says there regarding davening, we could not learn out as our halt as a oich b'negeya to Beis Medrash, that we would apply the same when it comes to the question of who's to be allowed into the Beis Medrash to learn Torah. And the reason is, weil Beis Medrash is in Yonit Torah. Beis Medrash, the main point is a place to learn Torah. Was niktnis, as the Mishnah says, it's acquired b'dibuk chaverim, by the many friends together that learn, or b'pilpula talmidim, and the discussion that there is from all students together. V'adarabe, and not only this, even more so, mitalmidai yoser mikulam. From one student, you learn more even than your teachers and your colleagues. So therefore, one would say that over here, when it comes to learning Torah, is vas mer talmidim. The more students you could allow into the Beis Medrash, even those that do not have that quality of being inside like outside, als mer pilpul and als tifer the nickness. But the more number of students that there are, the more discussion that there will be, and therefore the deeper you'll be able to acquire the Torah that you learn. So I would think that over here, Rabbi Gamliel would agree that the kamos, the number of the students, even students that are not on the level of being a colleague or a teacher, but even those that are on a low level, it's important to allow them in because even they add to the learning. So that would be a svara that only applies by the learning, but it doesn't obviously apply to the davening. So I would think that here, Rabbi Gamliel would agree that the kamos is the main thing. So therefore, the Gemara tells us that there as well, Rabbi Gamliel says you have to look at the quality of the students, and only those that are teicham, kibaram, could be allowed in. Val derech hamusa yesh lo haisif, and then it could be added, al derech hamusa as well. Hayes Torah is melashon neira. Everything that's being learned is not just a matter of studying it, but it's also as a lesson. Weisen a Menschen wie darf sich führen, to give the person the guidance of how he should behave. B'meila will given a makom loima. There's room to say as a yeshiva is oich tzaliv talmidim she'ein toichem kebarim. A yeshiva is also intended for those students that are not inside the way they behave outside. B'chtei hazeh sollen wissen wie zu führen sich in order for them to come in and to learn how they should behave. Und noch mehr, even more so, oifton, as bei sie soll werden, teuchem kebaram, that perhaps then this will actually accomplish that they will be inside as they are outside. So by Bismedrish, there's again another reason yet why we would think that Rabbi Gamliel agrees that you can allow everyone in. And therefore, the Gemara in Brachis spells out exactly what Rabbi Gamliel's opinion was and how a Beis Medrash should be set up and who you allow in and who not. Lashmienu, to let us know, as euch benidden zeh, that in this case as well, not only by the davening, halt Rabbi Gamliel as men rechnet sich mit eiches. That the main thing we look at is the quality of the students that are coming to daven. So we have here this explanation of the machlokes of Rabbi Gamliel and the Chachamim, both regarding Limud HaTorah and regarding tefillah, regarding davening. Here the Rebbe will show how you have a similar machlokes with a similar explanation regarding a case that relates to a money matter, an argument between two people in a money matter. Teichana shayla now. But first the Rebbe gives the following introduction. The content of this discussion here. Whether what's more important is the quantity, or rather the quality, is Eile Bekana Echad. It goes along with Adar Al Kapanim Enfun, or at least similar to the Shaila Bekame in Yanim, the discussion that there is in some matters. Wie the Rogatchover is Meirech Bekame Mekaimis, as the Rogatchover speaks about this at length in some places. Was is the Iker Hadovar? When you're looking at something, what is the main thing to focus at? Chaymer v'geshem Hadovar, the matter, the physical of it. Oder sein Sure v'teichen, or its form or its content. What specifically is it expressing? What's really behind it, not just the matter. If you just look at the matter itself, so then, coming to numbers, the quantity of numbers will be more important than the quality and the purpose and the content of it. If, however, when you look at something, the main thing is its form, its content, what this really is about, is eichos machriya kamos. So then it's the quality and the level and the nature of it that is more important than just the plain and simple number of quantity. So based on this, we can find in the Gemara another case where Rabbi Gamliel and the Chachamim follow their reasoning that we explained before here regarding Torah and Tefillah. And this is in dem din von Tane Chitim v'Hoidele B'Seirim. So this is a case where the Gemara discusses the halacha of Meide B'Miktsas, where the Torah says that when there's a claim, for example, someone is claiming that you owe him $100, and you answer that 50 I agree I owe, but the other 50 I deny. That's a Meide B'Miktsas, someone that is admitting to the claim, to part of the claim. So in this case, the halacha is that you have to swear to back up your claim of this that you deny. You have to swear that it's true that you don't owe that 50. Now the question is, in the following case, if it's Tane Chitim v'Hoidele B'Seirim, that the claim that's being made here is that you owe chitim, wheat. Let's say you owe 100 pounds of wheat. V'Hoidele B'Seirim, and you're admitting, you're saying, wheat? I don't owe you any wheat at all. I owe you 50 pounds of barley. So in such a case, the Chachamim, the Tanakama says, Potter, that you're exempt. The Shvuah of Meide B'Miktsas that applies when one is admitting partially does not apply in this case. For Rabbi Gamliel says that in this case, Yechayev in the Shvuah of Meide B'Miktsas, the claim was a number of, let's say, 100 chitim, and you're admitting to part of it. And even though it's in a different quality, it's in barley, but you're going to be chayev. So what's the explanation of this machlekes? Okay, so first the Rebbe explains the machlekes on a simple level. The Chachamim Tanakama halten. The Chachamim's opinion is as a Meide B'Miktsas is chayev, that one that admits partially is obligated to swear. Novin de Heda B'Miktsas is mimina taina. That's only when what you're admitting to is of the same kind of what the claim was. But Rabbi Gamliel halt, however, Rabbi Gamliel's opinion is as Eichven de Heda is shalei mimina taina, even when what you're admitting to is not of the same kind of what the claim is mechayev shvuah mishum Meide B'Miktsas. Nevertheless, the obligation to swear to back up the claim that what you're still denying still applies. So regarding this argument as well, we can say, as the Sistoli in the Shaila now, that it's based on the discussion before. Was is the Iker von Azach? When you look at something, what is the main thing that it consists of? Ir chaimer the kamos? Is it just the matter and the quantity of it? Oder ir tzura ve'echos, or rather the form or the quality of it, the nature of it. Ubahaktim, and we can apply that here in our case with the following short introduction. The tam favas the edo von amid b'miktsas soll darfen sein b'min hatayne is. What would be the reason why, in the case where one admits to a claim partially, that he would only be obligated to swear if he admits to what the kind of the claim was? Because if you're admitting to something else, which was not at all what the claim was about, you're not admitting to partially to what the claim was. And that means if the taine von chitin is nit kemoide b'miktsas nor a kofer akel. Regarding the wheat that was demanded of you, for that you're not admitting anything. You're denying it completely. I never borrowed any wheat from you. And then on the barley that you are admitting, partial admission that I owe some of this barley, is there never was any claim from anybody that asked that was claiming this from you. So therefore, it can't be referred to as being a partial admission to something that was claimed from you. That would simply be the reason why the halacha that the Torah says, Meide b'miktsas, does not apply in a case when you're being meide to something else that was not claimed from you. However, this point though will depend on the point that we said before. When there's something that's being claimed from you, what is the main thing that we look at here in this taina, in this claim? Anytime there's a claim and there's a demand to collect from you something which has a value of money, so there are two different aspects to this. The actual claim is expressed regarding something specific, whether it's chitim, seirim, v'chayetz, wheat, barley, or something similar. But this is the chaymer kamos from the tvia. This is the actual matter or quantity of what the claim actually is now. But on der Teuchen Zura von the Tvia is, however, another aspect to this claim here is, which is the content or the form of what this claim is about. Mammon, it's the value of money that there is here to this wheat. Was mont beim Chaver, that he's demanding of his friend. But das ist gleich bei alle Tvias, and that content, that it's really the value of money that the wheat has, is really the same by every claim, whether it's chitim, seirim, v'chulu. And what the specific matter in this case is, whether it's the barley or wheat, doesn't matter. So over here, that explains the machlekes. Das ist die Plukte zwischen den Chachamim mit Rabbi Gamliel und L'shitesayu Ozli. So we see here the explanation of their argument, and they're following their opinion that we explained before regarding Torah and Tefillah. The Chachamim L'shitasam halten, the Chachamim following their reasoning say here as well, as the Ikir Yed Zach is the Chaymer B'kamas Adavar. That the main thing of everything is looking just at the matter or the quantity of what it is. While Derech Zeb and Nidin Didan, therefore the same applies here as well, is the Ikir, the Chaymer Atayna. The main thing to focus on is the matter, the quantity of what the claim is. So therefore it comes out as in fall from Tan Chitim V'Hidlei B'Seidim, in a case where what's being claimed from you is the wheat, and you're admitting to barley, is nitokim ma'id b'miktsas hatayna, as explained before. So there's no partial admission here, because if you look at the actual matter of what the claim and the admission is, you're not admitting to anything of what the claim was. By contrast, Rabbi Gamliel's opinion is as the main thing that we pay attention to is the quality of what the claim is really about. For Z is the zelbe sai by chitin and sai by seirim. It's the same. It's the value, the money value that there is to the wheat and to the barley. And the riber is the saidah b'miktsah. So therefore, this is considered to be a partial admission. Even if it's not the same kind, if you look at just at the matter of what the claim is, here it's wheat and this is barley, but nevertheless, it's surah, the content of what this claim is about, which is the money value. Over there, it's the same. And therefore, Chachamim say, or rather, Rabbi Gamliel that is, says, that this is a Maida b'miktsas. So here though, the Rebbe will explain, we have a third case where Rabbi Gamliel and the Chachamim are arguing. Once we see their argument regarding this subject by Torah and Tefillah, why does the Gemara have to explain their argument as it applies in this case as well a third time? Und der Chiddush in der Plukte, legabe de friedige zwei Pluktes is, what's unique about applying their argument in this case, more than what was expressed in the previous two cases regarding Teire and Tefillah, is as follows. Bisamedrish, Teire, und Tefillah, the argument about who's to be allowed into the Bismedrish to learn Teire, or the argument regarding what's the main point in the davening, there we're dealing with something which is an object of a mitzvah. Therefore, there would be room to say, as das was Rabbi Gamliel rechnet sich bei sei mit eiches hadavar is mahai time gufa. The reason why there Rabbi Gamliel says that you must focus on the nature, the quality of what it is because of this itself. Hayei says this is a hefze shal mitzvah v'davisha b'kedusha. Since this is an object of a mitzvah and a matter of holiness, is chashuv v'machriya der teichen ve'eches from the zach. So what's more significant and what's more important to look at is the content and the quality of what you have here. That's what the davening and the learning, it's not just the words, it's the kedusha, the level of holiness and the quality of what this is. Which is not the case when it comes to permissible or mundane matters. So over here, they don't have any taita to them, any significance to them that I should say that the quality of it is the main thing that you should look at. Rather, you just look at the matter itself or what it physically is. This is similar to what Rashi says regarding a meal that a person eats during the week, in contrast to what a person eats on Shabbos and so on. Here Rashi is explaining the pasuk ve'chinu es t'shayaviut. So in order to explain that pasuk, Rashi says, Sudas chayil leichashiva. The meal a person eats every day doesn't have any level of significance to it as far as preparation is concerned. The expression of ve'chinu, to prepare, does not apply to this. Being just a meal that one eats by his desire, it's not something that exists on the level and in the world of Teire. So therefore, it doesn't have that significance that the pasuk that says vehechinu should be applying to this. So similar here, there's the basic understanding that there's a difference between when we are discussing Teire and Tefillah, which is of a different level of quality in the world of Teire. Maybe there, Rabbi Gamliel says that the eichos, the quality is the main thing. Und der Rebbe, wenn es wollt nicht gestanden befeide, shittis Rabbi Gamliel when he gets a tani chitim v'heidelei b'seiden. If Rabbi Gamliel's opinion here regarding this case when the claim was wheat and he admitted partially to barley, wollt man nicht gekent uplernen shittasai from Teire und Tefillah. You would not understand and learn his opinion that he says that the quality is the main thing, that we should apply that here as well. I would say over here, maybe because it's a mundane matter, you just look at the actual matter for what it is, whether here it's wheat and this is barley, and therefore they're not the same thing, and it's not a meidav miktsas. So then it's understood as well, Yidach Gisa on the other hand as well, wenn es wollt gestanden die Plukte von die Chachamim mit Rabbi Gamliel bleis benegeit zu Haida mimina taina. If the Gemara would only tell us the argument between Chachamim and Rabbi Gamliel here in this case, when one is Meida, whether it's considered to be the min of the taina or not, when it's wheat and barley, what mit nit gewost, shittas Chachamim benegeit zu Teire Tefillah. So then we would not understand what the Chachamim's opinion is regarding Teire and Tefillah. I would say that maybe it's only here that the Chachamim say, because it's a mundane matter, so you look at the actual matter for what it is. Here it's wheat and this is barley, but when it comes to davening or even Teire as well, there maybe Chachamim would agree that you look at the quality and not at the quantity. Therefore, the Gemara, the Mishnah has to tell us the Chachamim's opinion regarding Teire and Tefillah as well. We're not done yet. Here the Rebbe will bring that we find the argument of the Chachamim and Rabbi Gamliel based on their reasoning regarding another case as well. Just as we find the opinions of Rabbi Gamliel and Chachamim as it relates to the two pillars that the world stands on, which are Teire and Tefillah, we find similar that they argue regarding the third pillar that the world stands upon, and that's tzedakah, or more generally, gemilas chasadim. In Gemara is farana plukte b'pirish hapasik v'chesed le'umim chatos. In the Gemara, there's an argument how to explain the pasuk that says that the kindness of the goyim, of the nations, is a sin. What does it mean? Why is it a sin? Rabbi Eliezer sagt, v'chesed le'umim chatas, that their kindness is a sin, because kol tzedakah v'chesed she'umis akum oisin, all of the tzedakah and kindness that the nations do, chet hu lehem, it's considered a sin that it's happening. Shein and Eis and Elul is gadol by, because they're only doing this for their own sake, to become greater. And it will be explained soon, more specifically, exactly what's meant by this, to become greater. Rabbi Yeshua sagt, called tzedakah cholu chet lehem, the tzedakah that they do is considered to be a sin. Shein Eis and Elul kedei shetimashech malchusam. The chesed that they do is just for the purpose so that they should lengthen the days of their kingdom. Or Rabbi Gamliel sagt, and then Rabbi Gamliel says, called tzedakah v'chesed chulu chet lehem, the tzedakah they do is a sin, she'ein eisen elo lehisyar by, that they do the tzedakah only for the purpose to take pride and to be haughty about their behavior. That's why it's considered to be a chet. Now, the opinion of Rabbi Gamliel seems to be similar to what Rabbi Eliezer says, lehis gadol, to become great through their tzedakah. Is masbid the Mashal. So the Mashal explains the chiluk tzivishn is gadol cholu and lisyar. What's the difference between what Rabbi Eliezer says, the expression of lisgadol to become great, or lehisyar to take pride? Lisgadol by meant nit aloshin kedula v'chashivus. Over here, it doesn't mean that they're looking to get attention and greatness by giving tzedakah. Valdos is oich lehisyar, because that's also the meaning of what lehisyar is, to take pride of this. So there has to be a difference here. Nor this meant gedula b'shanim she'erichu yamim. Rather, he's saying something which is very similar to what Rabbi Yeshua says, that they want to have greatness as in long life. Rabbi Yeshua says to have long days of their kingdom, and Rabbi Eliezer says to have long life. So according to this Mashal, what is the difference between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua versus Rabbi Gamliel? So now this means, as the chiluk zwischen die erste zwei drashes von Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua, and Rashis Rabbi Gamliel is, what's the difference between the first two ways of explaining the pasuk, the chesed lo memchatos, and Rabbi Gamliel's drasha, loit zei besteht die chatos von die umais, and then was der ton tzedakah v'chesed is nor tzlib schar. That why is their tzedakah a sin? Because they give tzedakah only for the reward, to have long life or to lengthen their kingdom. By contrast, what's Rabbi Gamliel saying? Is a chet derin, was a chesed tzedakah is tzlib, und b'meile brengt sie zu der Mitte chet von gaiveles jar. Rabbi Gamliel says that it's an aveda because they give tzedakah for the purpose of, and this actually only brings them more to be proud, to show pride that is, and the haughty behavior because of their tzedakah. That's the difference between them. What is this? What is up? What is the explanation of this argument? So we can say, as das ist verbunden mit die Scheile, was ist keveya? It's connected to the discussion. What's the main thing that we establish something by? Chaymer, the matter of it, other tzura, or the form, the content of what's going on here. So how does this apply to the mitzvah of tzedakah and the way the nations twist and do tzedakah in an inappropriate manner, which turns it into an aveda, a chet? So the explanation here is as follows. Zogen, to say, as the tzedakah v'chesed v'sumas oilam tuen, that the tzedakah that the goyim of the world do is nit blois ke mitzvah nit. Not only is this not a mitzvah, nor is this verkehrt aniyim von chatas. And the opposite, this is an aveda, is as violent as getan ba'ifim, because they're doing the tzedakah in such a manner, as it says da achasar in zeh chesed tzedakah, that there's something basic here that's missing in their kindness and tzedakah. Was the far is the saniyim von chatas, and therefore it becomes instead an aveda. So in order to understand this, we need to look closer at the nature of tzedakah itself, and then we'll understand what it's lacking when goyim give tzedakah that it turns into a chet. In the mitzvah of tzedakah is an endat zwei chalakim. So in the mitzvah of tzedakah there are two parts. Aleph, the maise hanesin elani, the act of giving. When one gives the tzedakah to the poor individual, zushtan dem ani seine tzrachim, to provide the poor person with his needs. But then there's something additional, the eichos from the nesina, the quality, the nature of the giving. The save upon him yafa is to give pleasantly, to express when you are helping a poor individual your sympathy. When one is appeasing and comforting the poor individual with words. Und das is an ikke b'tzedakah. The second point here is not just an additional side point, but this is a very main thing in tzedakah. And wie the Rambam paskint, and as the Rambam says, kol ha'noisen tzedakah lani b'seiv upon him rois chulu. One that gives tzedakah to a poor person, but he's doing it with a bad feeling, with not smiling, just a bad face. Even if you gave a huge number of tzedakah, 1,000 gold coins, Ovad schusay v'fsida. You lost your merit of this mitzvah of tzedakah. So those are the two parts of the mitzvah of tzedakah. Und in dem besteht die Plukte zwischen Rabbi Gamliel mit der friedige zwei Mandomrim. This is the argument between Rabbi Gamliel and his colleagues, the two other opinions, which are Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Eliezer und Rabbi Yeshua halten as the ikke von der tzedakah is the chayme v'kamos. Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua's opinion is that in tzedakah, the main point of the mitzvah of tzedakah that we should focus on is the chaymer, the matter, the quantity of the money that you're actually giving. The pu'ulas and the sinalani, the act of the giving to the poor individual. Und the fathers late say, so therefore, according to them, when we're looking at goyim that lose the schus of tzedakah and it turns into a aveda, v'bal ti umis olam tu and tzedakah v'chesed l'shem schar is a schatos. Because they only give the tzedakah for the purpose of a reward, it becomes an aveda. And that is vibal das kol matarasam thereby is tzulib schar fazich. Their entire goal of giving tzedakah is just to gain the reward for themselves. And vat kedekach, and this is to the extent as oib zevela nit bakommen dem schar, zan it sich mischaret ala tzedakah. It's not just an added thing that they're thinking of that they can get schar, but if not for the schar, then they regret giving the tzedakah altogether. They're not interested in the mitzvah at all. Kumtais as es da chesaron in the maisan esina. Because of this creates a problem with the very act of the giving. Es is abgemosten, leit zeh ratzen bas schar v'goydel schar, nit leit tzarchayani. The whole point of the giving, which is to provide and give and help the poor individual, is not what it's about. It's all just here for themselves, to give themselves a reward in what they're doing. They're not occupied, they're not really doing an act of giving at all, to give to the poor person. No, rather, mit bazorgen sich, rather, they're busy providing for themselves by this giving. So it's really an act of taking, to provide for themselves, whether long life or to lengthen their kingdom. So therefore, this act of giving turns into a chatos that they're just really taking for themselves. That's if you focus on the chaymed, the act of the giving itself, that it turns into a chatos by the fact that they're just interested in the schar for themselves. On the other hand, Rabbi Gamliel's opinion is, as the ikke von jede Zach is ein Sureveichus. When you look at everything, whatever it is, the main thing to look at is its form or its quality. Al derech zeh by tzedakah. And the same applies here regarding tzedakah, as the ikke von tzedakah is the v'amafaisai. The main point about the tzedakah is the fact that you can express your feeling of sympathy for the poor individual and comfort him when you give him the tzedakah. And therefore, in connection to this, the goyim that give tzedakah not in the right way, how does their tzedakah get twisted and turn into an aveda? So what is this based on? It's not by the fact that they do what they do for a reward. Because according to Rabbi Gamliel's opinion, that will not necessarily affect the quality of the sympathy that they can express in the tzedakah. Even when they do it for the schar, it doesn't prevent them from actually doing it for more schar and therefore to express sympathy. No, according to his opinion, in them was a tuanes lehisyair. The fact that they do it only to express pride and haughtiness in what they do, chshivis of gadlus hanaisen, was das is a chesaron in dem eichus hatzedakah. Here, what's going to be lacking is not in the just physical act of the giving, but in the quality of the tzedakah, the sympathy and the level of the nature of the tzedakah that's expressed here. That's what's going to be lacking when they give the tzedakah just for the sake of gaining their own pride. And that is because the ikke von tzedakah is the save upon him yafais. The main point of tzedakah, according to Rabbi Gamliel, the quality of the tzedakah is giving with a smile, mitfilin or mefaizain the money, to feel, to have sympathy, and to appease and to comfort the poor individual. Was das shaykh nar when the neisen halt sich nit heche von the money. That's only possible when the giver doesn't see himself on a level above and removed from the poor person. He's able to relate to him and come down to his and be on his level and to really feel what he's experiencing. Und das is the here though by the goyim is the nisines at tzedakah v'chesed in an eifem hofchi von a b'amafaisai. The tzedakah is being given with an exact opposite attitude than one that is here to be sympathetic and feel the plight of the of the poor individual. And that is lehisyayer, gaive, v'gasas haruach, just to take pride and the haughty feeling of a person being on a higher level removed of the poor person. So it's specifically this idea of lehisyayer that takes away the quality and the nature of the mercy and the compassion that should be expressed in the mitzvah of tzedakah. So we see again here in this case the application of the machlokes of Rabbi Gamliel and the Chachamim, whether you look at the chaymer, just the matter, the act of the tzedakah, or the quality, the nature, the teichen of the tzedakah, which is the sharing and the giving and the mercy and the empathy, sympathy that there is in the mitzvah of tzedakah. So here as well, the Rabbi will explain the tzrichase, why it's necessary for the Gemara to tell us the argument of Rabbi Gamliel and the Chachamim in this case as well. So here as well, it's necessary to let us know the opinion of Rabbi Gamliel as Eichus v'tzura is machriya, that the quality and the form, meaning the teichen, the content of what this is more important. While it says da a chiddush in sein shitte beneged tzedakah, because there's something unique about his opinion as it applies to tzedakah, legabe de zelbe shitte by andere divrei kedusha. In contrast to his opinion regarding other matters that are in holiness, which is tefillah bis hamedrish teira, whether in davening or learning, as mentioned before. And the reason is as follows: in yanon v'ikron von tefillah von teira utfillah is, what's the main aspect of one's learning and davening? Is nit azay de chaymer. It's not as much the matter that's here, which means when a person learns the words that actually come out of his mouth, or davening as well. Nor the eichus v'tzura shalahen. It's rather the quality and the content of the learning and davening. The ikirin from Torah is the havanas inyan anilmad. The main point of learning is the understanding of the subject that's being learned. And azay is das alimud amok hamevel de ma'ase. And so too, to learn properly, to get to a conclusion, to know how to apply it in action. Das is an inyan ikri in Torah. It's a main point in one's learning Torah. Al derech zeh by tefillah, similar regarding davening, is ikra avodah shebelev. What's the main point of the davening? It's an internal work in a person's heart to connect to Hashem. Kavanas dalef ne'matayim v'chulu, beginning with first a simple fact to know in front of who you're standing and who you're davening to. So that's all the eichos, the quality of the person's inside experience. That's the main thing, both in learning and davening. Sorry, masha'en came by tzedakah is this lahepech. But when it comes to tzedakah, here the opposite is true. Ikir inyan tzedakah is the malay tzarchei. At the end of the day, the main point of tzedakah is that there's a poor individual that's needy, as so bakum in seine tzrachen, that he should receive what it is that he needs. Und therefore, kemen annehmen as es nit negay the kavana von dem neisen nor the kabbalah sani. There would be room to say that when it comes to tzedakah, the intentions and the attitude of the giver doesn't matter as much as what the recipient, the poor individual, is receiving. And as it says in the Sifri, how far this goes, as when eine is ma'abet seller mitoch yadai, if one loses a coin, a seller from his hands, umatza ani, and a poor individual finds it, v'halach v'nisparnisba, and he went and he was able to make a livelihood from this money that he found, maila olav akasav kilu zacha. The Torah considers it as if you did a mitzvah of tzedakah here, because even though you didn't give, but your money was received and was used by the poor individual. So therefore, we would say regarding Rabbi Gamliel's opinion is besvolt gestanden shittis Rabbi Gamliel no by tefillah Torah. If the Gemara would tell us the opinion of Rabbi Gamliel that he focuses on the quality only regarding tefillah and Torah, what we can sagen, then one would say as by tzedakah is meide as the ikke is kamos. That when it comes to tzedakah, where the main point here is the ani, the poor individual that's needy, there the quantity of what you give is what matters more. Therefore, has to clearly spell out his opinion regarding tzedakah as well. To let us know, as halt Rabbi Gamliel as megeit basarechos, that by the tzedakah as well, Rabbi Gamliel's opinion is that we do look at the quality of the giving, that it's being given with the feeling of sympathy, as explained before, and we don't only look at just the act of the giving itself. But then on the other hand, and there's another point to this as follows. From this that Rabbi Gamliel says, by tzedakah, that it's the quality that we look at more importantly than the act of the giving. Wat man nicht gekannt herauslernen, wie sein Schitte ist, benegayat tefillah bis medrash. We would not be able to learn and understand what his opinion is when it comes to tefillah and bis medrash and apply there as well that we should look primarily at quality. Why? Weil bei Tzedakah is bloß negeya, welche von die zwei is keveya, chayme v'kamas or the tzur v'eiches. Over here, when it comes to tzedakah, both are present, and both, the only question is, which one is more important that will establish what we look at primarily? The physical act, the quantity, or the content of what's going on, or the quality of what's happening here, which is the way you give. In this case, by tzedakah, the quality and the way you give doesn't necessarily have to minimize, there's no reason it should minimize the quantity of what you give. You can have both together at the same time. It's just a question of regarding the chatos that we say regarding the tzedakah by a guy that they turn this mitzvah into an aveda. What do we focus on more to explain how this mitzvah turns into an aveda? But we're discussing here a situation where it's not one or the other. It's both. There, in the tzedakah, there is the quantity of what you give, and there's the quality and the nature of how you give. So over here, Rabbi Gamliel says that we determine this primarily by the quality. Mashenkin by tefillah beis medrash, then is a benigud. When it comes to the case we spoke about, what davening is the main part of davening, or who should be allowed into the beis medrash, here there's a contradiction. It's one or the other. By saying that we follow the quality, so that minimizes the quantity. By beis medrash, akamus mu'ata from talmidim, nor shotechem kebaram. By following and saying that we look at the quality of the students, you'll have lessened numbers of the students, only those that are inside like outside. Anstatt a beis medrash mit ribuy safsalim, instead of having a beis medrash that's full with benches and having more students. Und noch mehr bei Tefillah, and even more so by davening, was the ganze teichene Eichus von Ashatz besteht in miyat akamus. In the davening, if you say that the whole davening is really just the shliach tzibur that davens and everyone is yotze with him, so here the eichos consists of the fact that you have the entire tzibur unified in one person, that it becomes one unit, and that's the whole greatness of this quality here, and that takes away the entire kamus of everybody davening together at the same time. As is nitok kein ribi kamus tefillis, nor blaze ein tefillah from dem ganzen tzibur. The whole point here is that it's a question of whether there's the mila of the combination of many tefillahs together at the same time, or not that one tefillah that includes in it the power of the unity of the entire congregation. So over here, there's a nigud. It's one or the other. Und der Rebbe wird man sein Schitte bei Tzedakah nicht abgelernt, als euch bei sie geht der Basarechus. So therefore, again, wird man von sein Schitte bei Tzedakah nicht abgelernt, als euch bei sie geht der Basarechus. Seeing his opinion when it comes to the mitzvah of Tzedakah, where you can have both at the same time, the quantity and quality. It's just a question of what's more important regarding determining how the Goyim twist this mitzvah. You can't learn from there how that applies here when you go to Torah and Tefillah, where here it's a question one versus the other. You can't have both at the same time. And from what's explained there is also understood that the same could be said about the opinion of the Chachamim, that we can't understand their opinion by Torah and Tefillah from what they say b'negei to tzedakah, since by tzedakah you have both the eichos and the kamos that are not a contradiction. It's not either one or the other. We can add and say to this, after the Rebbe finished explaining how this machlekes applies to the three pillars of Torah, Aveda, and Gemilas Chasadim, and how it also applies to an area of Rishus in money matters, B'negei to Meida B'miktzas. Now the Rebbe continues and explains the ones that say their opinion, Rabbi Gamliel versus the Chachamim, that it's based on who they were as an individual that brings them to this conclusion, to their opinion. So we can say as der chiddush, this chiddush that we just explained here regarding davening. In Shittas Rabbi Gamliel was man lernt up from Tfilas Hashatz. Rabbi Gamliel's opinion that we can learn as it applies by the Tfilah of the Shliach Tzibur. As Eich an Eichos was as Memayet HaKamos, that even a quality, where the whole point of this quality is the fact that we are taking away the fact that you have the number of everybody davening together. Adarabah, the whole point is that it's one person that davens that includes it all in one, and that's more important, is verbunden mit Nyonei Shal Rabbi Gamliel als Nasi. This is connected to the whole point of who Rabbi Gamliel was and what his life was about, being a Nasi, the leader of Yidden. The Nekuda Ikris von a Nasi is, was a Nasi is dafke einer. The main point about a Nasi is the fact that he is just one leader. You can't have more than one Nasi. Al derech via melech, just like it is in the case of the king, was ken zayin a mishnah melech. There can be a second to the king, a plag keser, the expression of the Gemara, a keser, a Caesar, a half, or one that's a level down. Aber a melech ken zayin nur einer. But a king is only one. The mitzias von zwei Melachen ken zayin nur, wenn sie meluche is b'shnei mekaymes. Two kings is because they're different places, different countries. Al derech, Malchi Yehuda, Malchi Yisrael, when by Yidden there were two kings in different sections of Eretz Yisrael, and Yehuda and Yisrael. The Tamadove is the reason why this is so when it comes to a king that there's only one, or a Nasi as well. Vala Nasi umelech is an inyan shel eichus. There's a unique level of quality to who a Nasi is. Ukiyudua as a Nasi umelech is the nekudas hametzias from dem ganzen Nam. As known that what is a Nasi and a Melech is not just simply a person that's charismatic and is a good leader, but he is a person that's on the level that includes in him that nekuda, that point that has everybody, then all the people in one point in him. Was the far is that in von a Nasi or Melech nit verbunden mit Ribei Akamos. And therefore, when it comes to a Nasi or a Melech, there's no number to this, there's no kamos about this, nor lehepech. The opposite is true. Er is einer. There's one leader or one melech. They're muet b'yosir in kamos. One, which is the smallest number in quantity. Now, sein meile is dafke in godel eichos. His entire meile, what is the greatness about him is the level that he's on. That he's one that includes everything in that one point. Und the far is der was is ma'ached es kalam umanhigay. And therefore he's the one that, as a true leader or king, unifies all the people and leads them. Und the far is ein shit benigayel tefillah. So therefore, Rabbi Gamliel being a Nasi, this expresses also his opinion regarding davening. As eichos is nit nor the iker, that it's not only that the quality is more important than looking at the quantity, nor as is negeya at kedei kach. The quality is what's more important to the extent as this is machria afilu when this is mimayit betachlis dekamos. Even in a case where looking at and taking the quality as the main point will totally take away the numbers of the quantity, we still say that the eichos is the ikar. And das is the chiluk hashittis zwischen Rabbi Gamliel mit the Chachamim. This is the difference in the opinions between Rabbi Gamliel and the Chachamim. V'zei zene geven blois chavrei Sanhedrin. All the other Chachamim that argued with Rabbi Gamliel, who were they? They were the members of the Sanhedrin. Was the inyan from chavrei Sanhedrin is Ribei Akamos. In the Sanhedrin over there, it's the numbers that matter. Varam Sanhedrin müssen haben dem Ribui von Ayin Aleph. Sanhedrin has to have the quantity of 71 to make up a Sanhedrin. And as es fällt afile eine von sie, even if they're missing one from this number, and even just the smallest amongst them, is this nit, kein Sanhedrin. It's not a Sanhedrin. So here you see the exact opposite of a Nasi, which is just one. Here, no, it's the numbers of 71. On the far is there plukte klolis, and therefore you have the general machlokes here. Kanal has explained, see, ribu yakamas is machriya eichos, whether the greater number in quantity is more important than the quality, or in the reverse, the opposite. This is highlighted in their argument regarding davening to the greatest extent, more even than the other arguments. The Chachamim halten as tfilas hatzibur ikke. The Chachamim's opinion is that the davening of the whole tzibur, when you have everybody together davening at the same time, the numbers, that's the main thing. Just as it is with a Sanhedrin that's made up of the number of 71 members of the Sanhedrin. By contrast, Rabbi Gamliel's opinion is as tfilas hashasiker, that the shliach tzibur that davens is one person representing everybody, that's the main davening. Bald as the Schatz is the Nekudas ha'echos von dem ganzen Tzibur, bedugmas hanasi, because the Shliach Tzibur, one person that represents and includes and unifies everybody in that one davening, is similar to the Nasi, that's that one point, that one entity that includes and unifies the entire Tzibur that he leads. But is the Nekudas ha'echos von dem ganzen Nam. He is that point of that level of quality that includes in one entity the entire people. That's the explanation for Rabbi Gamliel's opinion regarding davening.